What's up, guys? I am Kate with TypeMatch, and a lot of people in the community eventually do a video about the problems that they see with MBTI because MBTI is riddled with problems, and I guess it's my turn to do that video. So I will do my best to explain in a new way the biggest problems that I see with MBTI and the MBTI community. So for me, the most annoying thing that I have identified is that we are absolutely working backwards from the process we should be taking when learning about MBTI. And what I mean by that is that what we do, and I say we because I do this and I don't know anybody else who hasn't done it this way, is we first take a test and find out what our type is, and then we go and learn about MBTI, like the cognitive functions, the background behind it all. And that's the total opposite way that we should be doing. But of course we do it that way because that's kind of like the hook, the sell, the why would I do all this research on this thing? Why would I get into this? It's like the point of interest is me, of course. Like, oh, I took this quick test. It told me something really interesting about myself. Now I want to investigate more, and then more and more and more. But the problem with this is it's leading to massive confirmation bias. And I see so many people be like, I'm sure of my type because I took a test, but then I went and I confirmed by learning about the functions and the different types. And the problem with that is because you're coming in with this idea that you are this type, and all you're doing is confirming. Like you don't know you're doing this. You think that you're being objective, but everything you look at is basically confirming, like, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me. And then you just build this backlog of false information because were mistyped by that test because the tests are very inaccurate. So the way that it should be done, but I have no idea how to make this happen in reality, would be that you have to spend time learning about everything before at the very end you get to identify your type, like sort of a long process, and the reward doesn't come until you've actually invested the time to have a real understanding and more unbiased view of the types. And this is why I really like Dave's Superpowers and Shan at Objective Personality, because in their program you have to be like a subscriber for something like 2 or 3 months before you can be typed by them. And I like that because they're making you understand a bit of their methodology and do a bit of studying before you get that dopamine reward. And that's really great too, because they're probably going to tell you something that you would initially give a lot of pushback on. And I'm sure they still get a lot of people who give them a lot of pushback when they tell them, like, nope, this is your real type, because they've already come in with all these preconceived suppositions about who they are and what their type is. And this is why MBTI is extremely dangerous, because you have to be careful about what you are attaching your identity to and worshiping. And you can't build your whole identity around this thing that you really don't understand and is rather fickle in that manner, because you can easily have your whole view of yourself destroyed. And I think, this is why MBTI draws a lot of people who are young and feel lost. Like, there are older people in the community, of course, but they got into it at a younger age. Like, I'm sure a lot of you did this, you took a test and then you went to your 60-year-old dad and made him take the test, and he was just like, yeah, this is what I got. And for him, it was like, no big shakes, okay? You're not going to blow the mind of a 60-year-old telling them about how they are. They already know this, okay? And it might be like, oh yeah, this is interesting, there are a few things in here, but it's not going to be like oh my God, I finally feel understood, I finally feel me, this is life-changing. You're gonna show it to your dad and he's gonna be like, yep, that's me, and kind of like move on with his life. So MBTI, I think, a big problem of it is that it's being treated sort of like a religion and how people worship it. And they're going around quoting Jung like they're quoting the scripture, like, let's see what the sacred book says or whatever. But, you could quote the Bible, and that doesn't mean that you're any closer to God or that you understand spirituality better than others, really. And I'm not trying to alienate anybody who is religious, or I don't know, that's not the point here. But, the point is it bringing you closer to yourself? Is it expediting your path of self-understanding? Or is it really just serving to provide you with a dopamine hit because you get to feel special? Like, you go on, you take the test, you find out that you're a rare type, and then you want to keep getting those hits. It's like a drug. And if you understand yourself so well, like you think that you do, then why are you watching hundreds of hours of videos about your own type? It's that, like, are you just like a pure narcissist that you want to hear about you all the time? No, it's because you don't have that understanding of yourself. And we want to be told who we are and what we should do because we are lost. And it's really hard to see yourself. And it is extremely rewarding to get something and be like, this is who you are, and this is the cause of all your problems, and this is why your life is especially difficult, and life is so much harder for you than everybody else. And that is, I think, a bunch of BS, that your life is harder because you're a certain type. I do think that there is one type that I personally wouldn't want to be, because I think that being that type is kind of difficult. But I'm not going to give you guys the satisfaction of telling you what type that is. So you're probably sitting there being like, she means my type. And like, no, I don't care what your type is. I don't mean it. And I don't mean my own type, because I don't think it's especially hard to be an ESTP. But I think what makes somebody's life more difficult, it doesn't matter what type you are if you are being like sexually abused nightly. That's a hard life, any way you cut it. And everybody has their own struggles that they have to deal with and reconcile in their own life. But just be careful on the self-congratulatory nature of MBTI and alienating yourself from others as a result. It's an extremely powerful tool, but like the most powerful tools are all very dangerous. Okay, so you give a kid a hammer and the whole world looks like a nail. So you're this kid running around with this hammer of, this is what type I am, I understand this now, and you're trying to just hammer away at the whole world with this one tool, and you don't even know how to wield it properly. And I'm not saying that I know how to wield it properly. It's just really what it should do. I think it's extremely useful for putting words to and defining things that we already recognize. You can't recognize all the shades of blue until you have words for all the shades of blue. You won't see the difference. And so it is helpful to label things in that sense, because then you're able to be like, oh, I know what I'm seeing here. This is this trait manifesting. But don't use that as a platform of rejection of others, is I guess what I'm getting at. And be extremely careful with your confirmation bias and going out there, getting your type, and then going around and doing all this research on the type that you think you are, and just like feeding that, getting that dopamine hit, like, yeah, that's me, only to find out later that maybe this was all wrong, and you've attached your identity to something false. And if you do that, you can absolutely manifest that within your own life. But I don't know if this video is counterproductive to my purposes or not, because obviously I have an app that's based on MBTI, but MBTI for TypeMatch is really just the beginning. And I can't tell you guys at this point what the ultimate vision is and where we're going. I will make a video about that once I'm ready to reveal it, but MBTI will be used, but it's going to be not so much in the forefront and more on the back end as a supplement to what we're ultimately trying to achieve. Because I do think that there is so much unproductive bias in the community, and people who are addicted to MBTI like a drug, because it is highly addictive. So just be careful with it, I guess. And yeah, that's my rant for today. But if you want to check out more, you can follow TypeMatch on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out typematchapp.com and download the TypeMatch app on iOS and Android. See ya.